Okay, we're going to start notes now. So if you're grading, go ahead and finish that up, or just mark where you're left off and come back. Because we do have. That was an ugly sound, wasn't it? Sorry. All right. Angle measure. All of you should have done this before at some point. But here's the deal. You guys have no problem measuring B, like the distance from B to C. Inches is a way you might do that. Right there, as you can see, it says that is what? 1.43 inches. Agreed? Don't write this down. The 1.43. Agreed? Probably have no problem measuring that distance. 1.59. Agreed? We're all used to measuring along a line. But you measure along something. You're measuring along a line there. Okay, there are different ways to measure besides along a line. But that's the one we deal with the most. Here's the thing. You can't measure an angle along a line because at that part of that angle, look at that. What about at this part though? It's not the same, is it? See what I mean? It's kind of hard to figure out how in the world I can measure that angle. So we don't do it along a line. How do we do it? Along a? Anybody? That's the thing. You all know that you measure it probably in degrees. So everyone agree with that? But you probably don't realize actually what you're measuring it along. That's 0 degrees, right? I'm putting that right at the vertex. What is this thing making? Now it's hard for you to see. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how to make that bigger, but it says that angle right there, it won't let me do that because that's there. It's 30 degrees. How did I measure that though? When I click that little thing and that little tool comes out, what does that tool look like? A what? Looks like a circle, doesn't it? Isn't that what this is right here that you guys see me moving my little cursor there? That's how I move this. I can also just do it by using my finger. I'm dialing it in and out. But if you notice, as this thing goes out, see that other little kind of bluish line there? Bluish green? What is that going to eventually make when it goes all the way around to the other side? A what? A circle, right? Aren't I going in a circle right there when I'm measuring this? Would everyone agree? A lot of people don't realize and just don't even think about it, kind of take it for granted that you measure angles along a circle. It's how much of that piece of that pie did we go? We went, what, 30 degrees out of 300. What's all the way around? 360, right? Halfway is what? What's halfway? Yeah, when you say somebody does a 180, they completely turn the opposite direction, don't they? Everyone agreed? So a straight line is 180. Then you get all the way around. When they jump and guy does a 360 dunk, what's he doing? He's turning all the way around one time, right? When they do a 180, you jump and you turn half, right? That's how you measure angles. You actually measure them along a circle. So you'll see me mark them like that. See, I marked it kind of with an arc. Of course, I'm not going to make a perfect circle, trust me. But I kind of try to demonstrate them that way. Another way you'll see me demonstrate is by coloring the inside. Because that's kind of the angle, isn't it? That little piece of the pie, right? Does that make sense, everybody? That's how you measure angles. Now, how do I say the measure of that? Well, the measure of angle ABC is equal to 30 degrees. What did I write different there? Then I didn't write angle. You don't write angle ABC. You don't write this. Because why do I not write that? because I'm talking about the measure. Angle ABC is not a number. When I'm just saying angle ABC, I'm talking about that over there. What I write is what? What do you think that M represents? Measure. Just as when I'm talking about the distance from A to B, I don't put anything above it. And I might say that's like 5 inches, right? Agreed? Well, how do we write a statement with measure? We put a little M in front of it. So you should read that not as M angle ABC. You should read that as what? You should measure of angle ABC. Everybody got that? Now, what about this one? Is this angle bigger or smaller than the angle we just looked at? It's bigger, isn't it? Because along that circle, I go all the way to, looks like, I bet I tried to make this one 130. $130, right? So, like I said, you'll see me write 130 degrees. Let's say they had that 1 right there. What would I say? The measure of angle what? 1 is equal to what? See how that's now a bigger piece of the pie? Or a bigger piece of pizza? However you want to say it. Both of those are food that is in circles, right? That we draw, that we basically cut in angles. Sherry, let's go ahead and let's go take notes. Okay. You'll have time, I promise. Does everybody understand that? Any questions there? We understand the concept of how we measure angles. Now let's label this one. How about we label this angle angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. Let's make this D, E. Let's make this F. Then we'll make that G, and we'll make that H. Let's measure each of these out. That looks like the same as the first one, doesn't it? That one's 30 degrees. I label them a lot of times like this, like that. So I'm kind of denoting from there to there. And the reason I do that is because a lot of times you'll have them overlap here. Entirely up to you how you label them. Now I'm going to measure this angle. What do we get? You guys up front, can you read that number? 75. I know it's tough to see. I can see it easily, of course, because I'm right in front of it. What does the angle I just measured, what do you think it represents? What and what? No, we'll come back to that. Now let's go to this one. I was going for 110 here, if I can get it to stop on 110. It's really hard. So that one's 110 degrees. Let's go purple. So I'm talking about that angle right there, aren't I? So let's talk about the angles I gave a measure for. In blue there, the measure of angle, what, 4? What did I find it to be? In red, that was the measure of angle. How could I label that angle? It's not angle 3, is it? Well, I can't really say 3, 4. I like that because I want you to think like that on this one. But remember, when we can't use other stuff, how do we do it? We name it how we draw it, right, Gabe? GEF, right? And what's the measure of that angle? 75 degrees. Right? Remember, it's situations like this where we have to label them like that. And that's why we needed to talk about that again, because it has been a couple of days since we talked about that. And what about the purple one? That was a measure of angle what? DEF, right. And it was 110 degrees. What we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be asking you to find things like this. Let's find things like the measure of angle 2 with that information given, the measure of angle 3, the measure of angle DEH, and the measure of angle well, that's good enough. Well, as you know, I love colors. I'm going to draw angle 4, and I'm going to color the inside. If this really helps, something I did for the first time, I can't believe it, last year. And this really helped people because we know how we talked about the segments like this? More than anything, it helps us, I don't know, differentiate one from the other. To draw it with these colors so I can say, hey, instead of, we have a big problem this time of year talking the language. So sometimes it's easier if we just talk in colors, right? And then I'm going to color in the two things the two bigger angles that we found. This one right here, right? The orange is what? The 75 degree angle? Would you guys agree with that? And you don't have to color on your notes if you don't want to. If you want to, splendid. And then I need another color. Let's go with yellow. What smaller parts make up orange? Dark maroon, right? And what? Pink. I see this pink. I see, and that's the funny thing. It's weird. Up here, the colors are different than on mine. Purple, pink, whatever you want to call it. And what is orange is what? What do we find at 75 degrees? So what's the measure of angle 3 then? Now, how did we get that? Yeah, is this really any different than what we did with the segments? We're just measuring in a different way, aren't we? In essence, the whole thing orange is equal to the other two colors, the smaller parts, which is what? The maroon and the pinkish purple. We all have no problem saying that right there, right? Oh, that's not showing up very well. You guys with me? And it's really easy when you've got like a segment like that and the two pieces make up the whole thing, right? We have no problem saying that for that situation, right? That's what we did yesterday. Agreed? Is this any different? Isn't the concept exactly the same? So if that's 30, the whole thing 75, I just subtract pink from the what? Orange. And I'm left with what? 45 degrees. Everyone agree? So measure of angle 3 is 45 degrees. What about the measure of angle 2? What's an easy way to do this? What two pieces? Could I do it in a pieces type way? Yellow minus orange. Wouldn't if I have yellow, this whole thing here.
If you have a student having the issue of accessing Google Classroom, please send them down with their charged Chromebook to the RAN Cafe now, and Mrs. Shields will be in there to help. Thank you.
You guys see this? If you had the yellow and you subtracted the orange, aren't you left with the blue? So 100 minus 75, what do you get? You guys tell me. 110 minus 75. 35. So angle 2 is 35 degrees. What about DEH? I don't have a color for that one yet, do I? D to E to H. That's that one right there, isn't it? Would you guys agree? All it is the two that make it up. What two make it up? What colors? What two colors make up the green there? Blue and dark red, right? So it would be 30 what? 35 what? Plus 45, which would be 80?
90.
90?
80. 80.
That's easy, isn't it? But it's kind of weird because it's along circles. Agreed? What we did there, which is the big part of this, is called the angle addition postulate. And it basically means the two smaller angles that make up the bigger one. So in this case, pink plus blue would equal orange. But the angle addition postulate is basically realizing that you can write it as an equation. Don't you think at some point we might be doing some problems where I put some ugly things in here? Isn't that what the angle addition postulate is basically saying? So the measure, what it actually says, it doesn't use colors. It says the measure of angle 1. What's the other smaller part? Plus, what's the other smaller part? Measure of angle is equal to the whole thing, which in this case is the measure of what? Right, measure of angle A, B, C. That's the segment addition postulate. I know it's getting frustrating spending so much time on such easy concepts for some of you that get this stuff easier than others. I get it. But it could be worse. I could be going through it really, really fast and you have a bunch of homework, right? We could be doing a bunch of different concepts at the same time. So yeah, we're kind of going slow on this. Things that for some people we could do 2 days worth of stuff in a day. I get it. But it's just so important for us to get this concept right here, because everything we do builds on the things I'm kind of doing we're doing in this first 2-3 weeks. That's why it's so important. Naming things, understanding simple things that the two smaller parts equal the whole thing. You're going to have to do that over and over and over again. And when we get into more complicated concepts, if you don't have these down, you're just going to be lost. What do you think? Why do you think I have this one on here? Because I added an extra piece, right? Still though, do the smaller parts make up the whole thing? Oh, it gets old watching me draw all these colors, but maybe when you look back at your notes, this might ring a bell and help you on some of your stuff. Oh yeah, I remember that. It seemed easy when he talked about it. Because I'll tell you this much, you'll get into things this year that say it seemed really easy when we talked about it. Then you go and try to do it on your own. All of a sudden, the easy seems very, very hard. And hopefully these type of things will help push you in the direction. So the measure of angle 1 plus what? Measure of angle 2 plus what? Is equal to the measure, that's supposed to be a B. The measure of angle A, B, C, right? Can anybody tell me what angles 1 and 2 down here in this next one are? What do I call those? We've talked about it. We labeled them. I had you write the name of them. Linear pair. You know, the whole reason I'm going over this, we talked about how to measure an angle today, didn't we? I will tell people all the time, you can't go by how it looks. Okay, you have to go by the information given to you. But this is one of those rare situations where you can go by how it looks. What do you think I mean by that? Together they make a straight line, don't they? Brody, what's the measure of an angle of a straight line? Absolutely. So this one, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 has to equal what? I can give it a number. 180 degrees, always. Anytime you have a linear pair for the rest of the year, for the rest of your life, you're expected to know when you see a picture and they make a straight line, what is that angle? It's 180 degrees. You're expected to know that that's 180 degrees. That's one of the few things, like I said, that you can look at the picture and you can go by what it looks like. Just because I tried to draw a 90-degree angle here, right, doesn't mean it is. That might be an 89-degree angle. Agreed? Or it may not be drawn to scale. You can't count on things, especially in when we get into the stuff in the digital book. There's no reason for Chromebooks out. Still. Okay? Right here. What did we call these? Everybody remember? Vertical angles. Vertical angles always have the same measure. what we'll do is we'll make a mark like this. Okay? The two marks are same measure. So if I was to color one in blue, what color should I color two? What am I saying there? They're the same measure. If I color angle 3 in pink, how should I color angle 4? Should color it in pink too. This is what they're called as congruent angles. But for right now, we're not getting into congruency, so we'll just go with saying there the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 3. What would the measure of angle 1 equal? What would the measure of angle 3 equal? And that's just referring to that picture, correct? That's another thing that you use over and 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 over again. If you look at a picture and you see vertical angles, you are to know that the opposite angles have the same measure. So if the measure of this one was 100, what's the measure of this one? 100. Now, what's the measure of angle 1? Anybody? Why do you think you got 80? Not as much that, as much as what do those two create right there? What type of line? A straight line, don't they? And it's much easier to see there, isn't it? So what do they have to add to? So what's left out of the 180 for the blue to be? Huh? There's 80 left for it, right? Agreed? It's all perspective, which makes this one also what? When you have two lines intersecting, if I give you one angle, I give you all of them. Make sense? I'm going to hand out this paper, and I'm going to do an example from it. So we're going to stay recording here. Quick, get these handed out while you're writing that down. Let's see. Good, I've got it frozen. You guys can't see that I'm erasing what I did last hour. All right, let's look at number 1. And just some advice here. These colors are great for me labeling them for you guys when we're teaching them, but I don't expect you to. You know what I mean? I don't expect you to color your stuff, but one helpful way that you can have one color ink and label things is with the arrows and kind of draw on the arc. But one thing I want you to do is you need to show all steps and work. Okay? I need you to show me that you know what the angle addition postulate is. So if I didn't write it up there, write SASAW, no matter how simple. Here's the deal. For instance, let's just label this. They want us to find IJK. Well, I'm not a big fan of this problem for one reason. That looks like a straight line to me. So right now, I'm going to say it's 180. And it kind of goes against what I just told you. However, with this type of problem or this type of deal where we're just talking about adding things together, go by the numbers. Always go by the numbers, not how it looks. Okay? If they don't give you anything, enough information, then you can start saying that's a straight line. But first, we need to go by what's given to us. So that's what they want us to find, right? They give me A, J, K, A to J to K. So that's this angle right here, isn't it? What is the measure of that angle? 87 degrees. Do you see how I'm using these lines to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about and putting the value? The other one they give me is IJA. IJA. I to J to A. So that's this angle right here, correct? And what do they say it is? So they want me to find the measure of angle what? IJK. Here's the deal. After this basic stuff, you won't necessarily be required to do this, but for this assignment, I want you to show me that you know how you got this. So I simply want you to write 87 plus what? You're communicating to me that you know the angle addition postulate. That's all I want to see. It's not that, I mean, think about it, that maybe took a second and a half. There's 30 problems. 45 seconds. If you understand what you're doing, that's no problem, is it? It's for those that either want to copy or just don't feel like trying and just want to copy the answer or just want to guess. Communicate, show to me that and you don't even have to write equals to. What do they add to? 180? Turns out that was drawn to scale, wasn't it? But for now, for this assignment only, go by the numbers. Make sense? I know you could have just looked at that and got that. But when it's all said and done, and here's the other thing. I want your answer written like this. Does everybody understand this? Is everybody listening? Let's stay off our phones. Everybody pay attention. I want you to write your answer in this form because I want us to get used to writing and reading the language. I want you to put M, angle, IJK equals 180. Does everyone understand that? Yes, on my key, it'll just say 180. That's because that's a generated key from, a thing, and it just puts the what? Angle measure.